Okay. Right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Gwena Maboja from SAP. Welcome to SAP Purpose Network Live. This is a virtual platform where we foster collaboration and conversations on the challenges and opportunities to create positive economic, environmental, and societal impact. And with a focus today on building back better and uniting for a more sustainable and resilient world. SAP Purpose Network Live is unlocking the power of co-innovation at scale with companies, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, consumers, influencers, and purpose-driven leaders from all around the world so we can come together to discover new solutions towards the world's most pressing challenges in order to build towards a more sustainable and better future. And each week we convene thought leaders here, influencers and experts who are working together to accelerate the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So today we have a session. I'm super excited for this session, which is part of our customer experience series, where we are working with leaders all around the world to provide the resources network as well as the expertise to help companies understand this shifting world and innovate and build and adapt and build better business models in order to really address customers in the best way. And today is a special session out of our customer experience series where we've been focusing and having conversations around, the support for Black people, with the outcry in the world as it stands around social inequities, how do we come together and encompass and have a discussion around all the difficult truths that we're facing as a society around social injustice in particular, this topic around Black Lives Matter. And I think some companies are, and brands have responded in varied ways towards Black Lives Matter, and some are more kind of authentic than others in how they are dealing with this particular topic. So today's discussion is around, supporting Black female entrepreneurs in particular. This is really where we want to shine a spotlight today, is to have a conversation about how we can actually go and put our actions beyond the words, right? So as organizations, as people, as citizens, how do we go beyond just posting on social media about Black Lives Matter and actually taking real effort and action towards supporting certain communities, and in particular the most kind of disenfranchised, and have more inclusivity. So today's session, Actions Beyond Words, supporting Black women entrepreneurs. And we have a really great panel prepared here for you today. And with that, I'd love to hand over to Aminka Galvert, who's the president and CEO of A New Reality. Aminka will be moderating the session today, and she will also be introducing our amazing speakers that are here today. So a warm welcome to all of you on the line, and a warm welcome to our esteemed panel. Looking forward to having a really great conversation to really unpack this topic. So with that, Aminka, over to you.
Thank you so much, Queenie. Thank you everyone for joining us today with this very powerful and amazing discussion that we're going to have about how can we support and uplift and empower Black women business owners. So thank you, SAP Purpose Live Network, for hosting this conversation, for having me today. So I would like to go ahead and introduce our really fabulous panelists that we have today. And so I would like to start with introducing Shanae Jones. She's a founder of Ivy's Tea and Company. Nikki Porcher, founder of Buy from a Black Woman, and Amber Brown, Story Spot's CEO. So ladies, starting with Shanae, can you tell me a little bit about your business?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am Shanae. I'm the founder of Ivy's Tea Company. I'm also an herbalist in charge there. And Ivy's Tea Company is a hip-hop inspired herbal tea brand. Our goal is to change the way tea drinkers see themselves and also change the way the world sees tea drinkers. And our motto is drink tea like an adult.
Amazing. We're so happy to have you. And so Amber, can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Hi, everyone. Yes, absolutely. My name is Amber, and I am the CEO of Story Spot. And Story Spot is basically an online platform for storytelling. So you can think of it as a digital time capsule or a place to kind of save your memories, your traditions, recipes, so on and so forth in one spot.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amber. And Nikki, can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Hi, yes, I'm Nikki Porcher. I'm the founder of an organization called Buy from Black Women. We empower, educate, and inspire Black women business owners by spreading awareness of ways that people can support and actually buy from a Black woman. We believe when you support one Black woman business owner, you support a whole community.
That's so true and so amazing. I've heard so much about Buy from a Black woman. So congratulations on a lot of your success. So I guess starting with you, Nikki, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what took you to the point of starting your business or your organization?
So Buy from Black Women started when I went to an event and I was the only Black woman at the event. I saw there were so many people who were selling items, especially there was a lot of white women who were selling items, and they were selling items at these prices that I knew Black women were not even charging, would not even think about charging, but these people, they were here, they were buying, they were sold out. I wanted to do something for Black women, you know, because as a Black woman, it's like I need somebody to be the voice for me. So went home and said, how can I get people to support and buy from Black women? And literally it was like, okay, the name will be the action. So that's really how Buy from Black Women started. It started off as a blog where I would blog and share businesses owned and operated by Black women, and explore and try to challenge other people to actually go out and support Black women business owners. And it just grew into the nonprofit organizations that you guys see today. So we have education, we have marketing techniques, we have a directory that lists businesses owned and operated by Black women. We provide financial resources to businesses owned and operated by Black women. Is just, you know, is part of growing and listening to what your consumer wants and how you can be a better advocate for them.
That's amazing. No, that's really important. I think sometimes, and probably we'll get through the discussion of how we as Black women have to get comfortable with like setting our prices and being comfortable to charging more, just because we've always been experience of discount prices. And so that's really a great thing that you recognize in that. And so Shanae, can you tell us a little bit about the journey of Ivy's Tea?
Sure. I started Ivy's Tea Company in November of 2016 after taking a startup accelerator, you know, one of those things that teaches you how to start a business, because I knew absolutely nothing about running a business. I just had an idea and I hated having my day job. So I was like, teach me. And so I'd gone to this accelerator and they took me from idea to a minimum viable product in about 6 days. And after that, I've done 2 other accelerators that have taught me a lot more about marketing and just brand awareness, brand building, financial modeling, all of the things that you need when you're actually running a real deal business. And Ivy's Tea Company is an e-commerce store that I just created to bring more Black people's voices to the holistic health space, especially the herbal tea beverage industry, which is very whitewashed. And a lot of the herbal remedies that we have are either like Chinese traditional medicine or Indian medicine, which is totally fine, but you miss out on this entire great continent of Africa where there's lots of herbal remedies and none of those are shared with people. And I figured if we had more Black herbalists who were doing this sort of work, then maybe something could happen. And that's why I decided to launch Ivy's Tea Company. I started with $715 that I raised from friends and family, and took an herbal apprenticeship. And it's Buy from a Black woman that actually helped me actually get funds for my herbal apprenticeship, because I started and could pay the monthly payments, but then I needed supplies from the syllabus. And I was like, oh snap, I am going to need books and I'm going to need herbs and stuff. And I just didn't have the money to do that. And it's because Buy from a Black woman existed that I was able to apply. I got the funds and have been able to start my career as an herbalist and actually give back to the community in a way that's really needed, because a lot of millennials and a lot of Black voices are absent from the industry.
That's so amazing. So I understand you got connected to the accelerator from Nikki's platform. And
No, the accelerator was separate from Nikki's platform. The accelerator actually got me started on my business. And then I was like, well, I thought I could just sell tea. Like, you know, I'm going to put this online and people are going to buy it. No, you got to have like a marketing campaign. You got to be different. And it was then that I decided to become an herbalist. I definitely had an interest in it, but I also wanted a one-up on the competition if I could. And I found that I needed extra funds to actually do that. And that's where Buy from a Black woman helped me a lot.
So
Okay.
Shanae was the first recipient. We have a grant. We have a Black Woman Business Grant. So Shanae actually was the first recipient of our Black Woman Business Grant. And that's what she was saying that helped her go ahead and go to school to become a master herbalist for her business.
Okay, so it was through the grant you applied it. Well, that's amazing. Like how you can see that your platform creating that was able to help another woman and her to be able to now help like thousands with her tea. And I think that's really amazing that when we're building businesses and platforms that we're thinking about the community in terms of who else can benefit and the larger trajectory that can happen. So that's really cool. That's really amazing to hear. Thank you so much for sharing, Shanae. And Amber, can you share us what is your journey to Story Spot?
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey to StorySpot actually started about 3 years ago when I joined the Peace Corps. I joined the Peace Corps as a volunteer to help teach English in a high school. And I quickly found out that that's not a Black woman space. That's not a space necessarily for people of color. A lot of the Peace Corps volunteers come from backgrounds of a lot of wealth, and they can take, the 2 years off to do some volunteer opportunities. But I found myself one of 1.5 Black women in my entire cohort. And since I was in Kosovo, a European country, I was often an outsider. I couldn't just blend in. I couldn't do a lot of the things that my colleagues could do because of the fact that they could blend in. And I was often having conversations about, just Black history in general, because the history books stop with Martin Luther King there. So it was a very interesting experience. And with that, I decided to start blogging. I wrote a few stories. I've written for the peacecorps.com and things like that, but that wasn't a big enough platform for me. I felt like more Black women and more minorities should know about the amazing opportunity that Peace Corps is. And so it was kind of a rebirth of an old program, Story Spot is, and now we've kind of developed into this platform for storytelling. So I tell my story on Story Spot. Other people may use it to save their family traditions. Other people may use it kind of as a keepsake so that their 80-year-old grandmother can have those memories and relive those times and pass down those traditions. And so in it all, I would say my journey started by becoming an outsider. And in that, I really gained a voice and I was able to share my story online.
That's amazing. That's really incredible. And so all of you guys have shared that the focus of starting your businesses came from an experience that you had that either was a pain point or a lack in the gap in the industry that you experienced. Can you guys share some of the challenges that you face in addressing these gaps and also to just building your brand to the point of launch and scaling it? And we can start with you, Amber.
Yeah, for sure. I would say the biggest challenge, of course, would be just being an outsider. And with that comes with a lot of insecurities, and you feel a lot of microaggressions if they're there, if they're not there. And so what I found is the biggest challenge was me not having a tribe or a group of people that I could look to in order for them to kind of help me along the way. And so what I realized is I don't need just one person. I can have a best friend, I can have a business mentor, but really I had to start to create a network of people in order for me to lessen the burden of feeling like an outsider and to increase my productivity. Because if I didn't do so, I would just kind of be brooding on this aspect of why isn't no one listening to me? Why can't I get the value that I'm looking for? And so basically, I now do have a spiderweb network of people who I can support and who can support me as well, similar to the people on the panel.
That's amazing. Having a network is really important and one that really reflects your values, because sometimes some individuals as entrepreneurs, sometimes we get a promise, individuals saying we can do this for your business and really not following through. So it's important that as you're building a network that it supports both the values and the vision that you have for your company, because it can be different. Some companies want to just focus on profits. Some others, which I believe is a lot of you ladies on the panel, want to also create impact for Black women in our community. So Shanae, can you also share some of the challenges that you experience and develop in your brand?
Sure. I think one of the largest challenges that I had was like proof of concept. I had to prove to other people, even my target demographic, which of course is other Black women, we have a lot of buying power and are absent in a lot of avenues. But I felt like I had to prove to them that this isn't just important to me, that there is a need for a Black-owned herbal tea company, that Black people do drink tea, not just when they're sick, that there are other reasons why we can drink tea, that it doesn't have to be always drinking coffee or always going for soda or juice or whatever. And I had a lot of people say things like, if it was important, then this big company would already be doing that. So it's like combating that level of ignorance, and also reminding people that we have to put people before profit, and that when you have a very narrow type of view, where you have one group represented in this entire category, of course they can't look out and say, oh, well, we don't have this person and we don't have that person represented, because they're speaking from their own experiences, from their friends and the people that they know, who happen to be all like them 9 times out of 10. So it's definitely been challenging convincing people that what I have is more than just a good idea, and that it's not just a trend.
That's true. I really believe in that. And I identify with that. When you're shifting culture mindset, sometimes the work is actually within your culture. Like myself, being in the tech industry and creating my own tech company, and also have an accelerator for young individuals, the growth of just having our community to understand the need and the necessary for have that, I do understand that could be like the first hurdle. So I identify when you share that. So Nikki, can you share some of the challenges that you have experienced, or if you currently still experience them?
Sure. So the major challenge is that, I'm a Black woman, right? And I put that in the name. Um, so it's like, oh my gosh, are you racist? Why are you just for Black women? Why not all Black people? Why not all women? So trying to give that narrative that, just because I'm saying buy from a Black woman, I'm not saying don't buy from Black men or don't buy from all women. So that's a message that I have to keep reiterating, let them know, like, I'm a Black woman, so I'm here for Black women. I'm always going to be here for Black women. And that's because I'm here for who I am first. So that's a challenge I always have to go against. And then just, I'm advocating for a group that is the least supported in this country. So that's always going to be a hurdle, trying to convince people that we are worthy, even though we know we're worthy, right? But like, hey, I have to do this because if I didn't do this, you guys might forget about it. So somebody has to stand in the front.
Mm-hmm. I really like what you said. I want us to kind of like just follow up on that, because when I was creating a New Reality Tech Summit, I was, sharing the information with schools and community organizations. And I know with the schools, when I was saying I'm looking for, first, I was like, oh, girls that are marginalized in different ways. And there was a really lot of pushback on just the term from schools that were not predominantly Black, because I feel that lots of times that we need to understand that there's support that happens for Black women and Black girls in spaces that are predominantly white, because they get forgotten. And it was such a struggle for them to really understand that we have to be very specific and to say Black women and Black girls. The reason is when we just say women and girls, there's always systems either purposely designed most times to really eliminate that from the process. And what we found was from a parent telling us, when we didn't have like a large percentage in the school, said, well, we don't have that many Black and brown girls in our school. And a Black mom said to us, no, we do. But when these opportunities come up, they purposely do not share it with our kids. And then we had to next year literally be so bold and be like, do not send me individuals who are not brown and Black. And it really made a difference. And I think it's a conversation for all of us to have, and to say why we need to say those spaces, and why individuals who aren't Black to not get uncomfortable because of that. And so what would you say to that, Nikki, of like, having that discussion in an open way where we don't hide why we need sometimes our own safe spaces?
I guess, is not hiding, right? So like, we shouldn't have to hide why we need our own safe space. It's just like, for example, there's women groups because they felt like men weren't speaking to them. So there's just another level. So now there's Black women groups because we feel like white women were not speaking to us or for us. So it's just that next level of exclusivity that we need our space to be comfortable around people who look and think and feel and experience things like we do. there's nothing slight. Like I'm not a white man, so I would never know what it is like to be a white man in America. I can only relate to being a Black woman in America. So there should be nothing wrong or nothing against, me saying, hey, I just want to hang out with Black women on this part and be there for Black women. So it was just, for me, it was more so like, that's something that you have to personally ask yourself, why do you feel some type of way when you hear that word? What is it that makes you uncomfortable? Because I'm not uncomfortable saying it, but why are you uncomfortable receiving the words from me?
And you know what else I would say is that I think that unfortunately for us, whenever we say like, I have buy from a Black woman, or I have this and it's specifically for Black women or specifically for Black girls, there are people in other organizations who see that as we're doing it in spite of them, because that's how their organizations are run. Like you create these spaces that like some co-working spaces that are really with a lot of this bro culture, and it's intentional. They act like it's not intentional, but it is intentional to attract more people like them. And so when we go, we feel uncomfortable and we say, well, we don't want to be involved. We want to make our own thing. Well, why are you making your own thing? Are you doing that because of X, Y, and Z? Like you don't like us, you feel like we're hostile to you or whatever. And there's always a negative push and a negative backlash to it. When the truth of the matter is that we tend to make our own spaces to celebrate ourselves, because in spaces that aren't specifically designed for us, we're not included. We're actively not thought of in every aspect of the business, from the design, the decor, the greeting, the language on your papers that you have to fill out, the welcome that you get when you walk in. Can I find this place? Is it in a place where I typically go? Like all of that is intentional. And when we decide that we're going to make spaces to celebrate ourselves, we get negative backlash. And it's really unfortunate when the people giving us the backlash don't even take the chance to try to include us.
Mm-hmm.
That's so fair. I like that you said that, and understanding that it's not just saying we're advocating for ourselves, but you understand your design keeps us out. So we need to create a space, but let's discuss how we're going to redesign spaces for us, and you can use it as an example to be more inclusive. And so, Amber, what is your response to this, and how do you also respond when individuals might say that to you about your business, or when you're having conversations to advocate for just Black women?
Yeah, I would say something that I was thinking of as the other panelists were speaking is that there's one end of that spectrum where there are people who are just pushing us out, but something a little dangerous as well could be this faux allyship that's going around. And I think all of the people who, blacked out their Instagram in June, and the people who, make the email messages who say, we support Black people, but they're not doing anything to do so. I think that's something to be critical of and to be careful of as well. And so that would be definitely my response, is to find the people and the businesses that are going to legitimately support you, not just because you ask for it, but the people who will come to you and ask questions to make sure you're more comfortable, to make sure you seek out those people and stick with those people, because I think faux allyship is something that is really gaining a lot of traction these days.
I like that, because that really sways right into our next questions about support. So what we can also do, let's discuss about what support have you got. Shanae, you shared about how you started with around $700+ and then you were able to get additional support. What type of support, both financial, like monetary and non-monetary, that you receive at the beginning? And also to what type of support are you needed now? And to kind of go on to what Amber was saying, to ensure that the support is not coming based on, I need to help a Black woman, so let me help them out. So to focus on those who are looking to help Black women, and they're saying, how can I support you in a genuine way? What support did you receive, and what support you're looking for that they can provide you? Amber, would you like to start with that?
Yeah, me or Shanae, sorry.
Okay, you can go ahead, and then we'll go with Shanae and Nikki.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'm in the beginning rounds of some seed funding. I'm pretty new, really new. So I haven't gotten any financial funding just yet. I've been working off of just kind of some funds that we already had in the bank from the rebirth. And so it's really interesting to kind of go in and hear about Shanae's proof of concept, and knowing that there's marketing that has to be done. So we're in the very beginning stages of our startup. So I don't necessarily have any financial support just yet. But I do have a lot of people in my back pocket that I can use whenever I'm just faced up against the wall with a question I can't answer. One of my favorite people is one of my business mentors. He was my college advisor. And then we worked together for a little bit after I graduated. And then he's still been one of my advisors. And I can go to him not because he has a lot of technical industry experience in tech and in business, but because he's going to be the one that reminds me, don't sell yourself short. It's fine if something doesn't work out this first time. Remember how it happened last time. He's always there to be my cheerleader. And so I think he's one of my favorite support system members that I do have. And then also I think family and friends, of course, goes without saying, especially the family and friends who support you and buy your products, full price, that kind of thing. And also, I do believe in the power of therapy. So I do have a therapist who I discuss my business with. I mean, all aspects of my life, of course, but I do discuss with another Black woman, these are the challenges that I'm facing. Am I crazy for thinking this way? What advice would you give me? What is something that I can work on in order to fully show up as myself authentically, but also as someone who is bridging a gap and pushing the status quo? So I think that level of support right now is more important to me than the financial aspect of it, but still working on the financial aspect.
But I think that's fine. What you said, I like the point about therapy. And just as a woman that have started different businesses throughout the years and brands that I manage, the therapy support cannot be understated. And just the emotional support of having to discuss when you're going to a new contract or you're developing a new partnership, it's really important to be able to balance that out. And when we think about, some of the leading entrepreneurs in the world, most of their support is really just a group of advisors, right? And so we always need to make sure that we have a group of advisors that are really going to provide that advice, that it's separate than personal, where they can really give it to us without, our feelings being met. So I think that's really valid that you said that, and something for all of us to consider. And Shanae, so what type of support that you are currently receiving, or a support that you feel that an ally can provide that will be most effective to your brand?
Oh, well, I can say, when I started Ivy's Tea Company, I was very lucky, I guess now I see, because I had my mom and my sister who were very supportive of me, and my sister's in-laws are very supportive. I never had anybody asking me for a discount or, trying to haggle me on prices. It wasn't until I got to social media that I realized, like, this is a real problem that people have. I'm lucky that I didn't have those types of things. But because of them, I've always felt confident setting my prices, selling my products online, and knowing that I was delivering something that looked professional. I mean, in the early days, to me, it was rubbish, and I don't even know how I made it to now. But, things are much better now. That's what happens when you get a little cash. And so I'm lucky that I had people who were supportive of me along the way and constantly encouraged me no matter what. As it pertains to allies, I mean, of course, you can buy tea, tell a friend to buy tea. You can always leave a negative comment about coffee on any sort of page. I appreciate that sort of snarky support. But also I can say that when it comes to allyship, and, I saw a big push, a ton of customers in the month of June, and a lot of them at the end of May, month of June and July. And as a result, I got so much press, which was great. I was in Harper's Bazaar, on Eat This, Not That, Delish. It's awesome. But it's also a little frustrating to say, well, here are 138 Black-owned tea companies. Who the hell is going through 130? You're going to look at the first 10, and then you're going to go check your Facebook or your Instagram or whatever. I think that if that's what you're going to do, more of these companies should commit to maybe highlighting a Black business every day or a couple of times a week. And let that continue. Don't just let that be something that you do because a Black man died this week. Let that be something that you're going to consciously do. Even now, I have someone who works on social media, and she's like, I would love to work with, Indigenous Peoples Week or month. I forget what she called it. She's like, I know some influencers we can work with. And for me, I'm like, sure, that's fine. But we must also make sure that we have a plan to work with them in 8 weeks and then 8 weeks after that. It has to be continuous. This isn't just some pop-up support type of thing. These people need help all the time. And that goes for me as well. So if you run a blog or a website, or you do PR or press, or you want to write an article about Black-owned businesses, I say, yes, please do it. We appreciate it, but do us a favor and do it all year round, not just because it's holiday season and not just because it's trendy and going to get you in some engagement, because otherwise you're using Black labor to share your work and get your writers likes and engagement and clicks and ad revenue dollars that you see that we might not see. Because, like I said, no one's going through a list of 138 Black owned fashion brands. I'm not. And everything that I own and purchase and support is Black owned. I use Black owned dishwashing liquid, Black owned wool bars for my dryer. I use laundry detergent from Black owned businesses, carpet cleaning products, kitchen cleaning products. Everything that I buy is Black owned. And I'm not going through a list to find another Black owned toothpaste company. I already have one and I'm just going to stick to it, which is unfortunate for whoever made it on that list because I don't have that kind of time. So I just want us to be a little more intentional and forward thinking when we call ourselves being allies. And that's for me as a person who uses my platform for further marginalized people like trans women, you know, who are even more marginalized than I am. It's my responsibility to use this platform in a way that amplifies their voices, not just when it's hot. And that goes for everybody who's in a more privileged position and wants to do good for others.
I like that. You really touch on sustainability. And I think it's important when we're building brands that as Black women, it doesn't have to just touch in a culture aspect. It can touch in like the holistic aspect. And I think that's really good because that allows your brand to have longevity. And I also like what you said about the different brands. Like you can just take 130 and span that over one day. And in terms of you just promoting that you do business with a lot of Black people, that's amazing. And I'm going to send you some technology Black owned companies that you can also use as well too. So that's amazing. Nikki, can you also share some of the challenges that you face or currently do face in your businesses and what type of support you would like to receive or support that you have received in launching Black women?
So we are a nonprofit organization. So donations, right? So it's a great way to support. When we receive donations, we're able to do so much more. So like it was Shanae spoke on, June was an uptick of a lot of people wanting to seek out and support Black businesses, Black women businesses. So Black for Black Women was able to benefit from that. I received an increase in donations. We're able to go ahead and give that right back out to our community. We provide a relief fund for 24 Black women business owners. They each received $1,000. So that was like 24,000 we were able to give out. We have an education scholarship happening. So donations really help us, and also supporting and spreading the messages of how important it is to support and buy from Black women. We have a directory, so there's no excuse. We really remove the excuses of people who want to be allies. You can shout, like Shanae mentioned, all the businesses that she supports. We have a directory with over 400 businesses owned and operated by Black women. So you cannot say, oh, I don't know where to buy from Black women. We got you covered on that one. But when we talk about intentions and being intentional as an ally, when June came, a lot of people gave these lump sum donations, which is great and amazing because we're able to do so much, but set little reminders for yourself too. So if you're like, hey, I want to give to buy from a Black woman, maybe instead of giving $1,200, you give $100 a month, right? So now you have that reminder, and that reminder serves as a tipping point for you to do something else. So if you are like, oh, I'm donating to buy from a Black woman once a month, then that email comes to like, hey, you donated to buy from a Black woman this month. And that puts you in the place where you originally were, when you said you wanted to support Black businesses, because now you had that reminder. So here goes a donation. Now you're like, oh, well, let me go buy from a Black woman this month also, or let me go ahead and be an ally or write this article or this blog post, whatever it is. So set intentional reminders of why you started the journey that you're on and keep going with that. Like, don't lose the energy. I was reading and writing this post called White Noise, right? And it's so, because that's all we're hearing right now, where before so many allies, especially a lot of white people, were like, oh, we have to do something, people are dying. But people are always dying, right? Like, police brutality did not just start in June. This has been happening and ongoing. So the fact that COVID allowed people to be still and had to force to see what was going on in this country. That's really what it was. Like, you guys weren't doing anything else. You were home. So now you get to see what we experience every day. So now that you experience that, don't forget how you felt in June. You know, when December comes up, like, oh my gosh, I gave it to a Black woman in June, I'm good now. No, keep the party going, keep going. So that's what I need. Like, the feeling that you had when you first learned what was happening in the Black communities, keep that feeling going. Set little small reminders. be intentional. Maybe you go ahead and write yourself a list of things you're going to do every month to make sure that you are doing the things that you said you were going to do when June popped off. So be intentional and set reminders so you can keep going.
There. Yes, that's really important to be able to understand. Again, that sustainability aspect is not just in terms of the environment and understanding diversity inclusion, but also to understand that financial support has to be longevity in term, right? So being that all of us are Black here in the panel, we're Black women entrepreneurs, would you, I guess, agree or speak further to how that affects us as Black women, the race aspect? And what would the support look like for white and Indian women? Do you believe that they receive more support? And why would you believe so? And we can start with you, Nikki.
You said, do I believe that white women receive more support than Black women?
Yes, white women and Indian women. I should say these are questions that we're getting from our Facebook Live.
Okay. I do believe that white women receive more support than Black women. I'm not sure how else to answer that, but yes, I do believe that.
That's true.
Like I do. Like we can even go as far as like a good example would be the feminist movement, right? So the feminist movement started, and now it's very, as Shanae would say, like whitewash, and people like, oh my goodness, you know, you don't think of Black women when you think of the feminist movement. You don't think about all the contributions that Black women gave to this country in order to make sure that we did have rights to vote, rights to move forward, rights to equal pay, that we're still, you know, battling, you know, especially Thursday is equal pay day for women, right? But all we see is the white women who are doing it, even with the Me Too thing, right? So like that was started by a Black woman, and then a white woman came and she helped with that, and now it's, you know, time's up. But that was from a Black woman. So, but because a white woman took it over, she was able to, you know, bring a level of awareness that might not have been to that. So yeah, I do think white women receive more money and more funding, more opportunities, more doors are open, more exposure, just more everything than Black women. If I didn't believe that, it would be buy from women, not buy from Black women.
That's true. That's very fair. And it's Tarana Burke, that the woman who started the Me Too hashtag and who was left out until they then included her. So it's true. We've had an erasure of Black women as a history in this continent for a very long time. And Shanae, can you also speak to that as well too? Why do you think race matters? And would an Indian or a white woman have more support than a Black woman?
You know, I think that race matters because it brings with your race can come a unique set of challenges or blessings or opportunities, however you want to see it. You know, there is Charlemagne the God who wrote that, you know, Black is a privilege, right? Because you just have like a certain style or language, or you get to be a part of a certain culture or a certain demographic, and then it can turn into profits for you, or it can turn into a level of comfortability for you that non-Black people don't understand. That said, I'm not going to answer the latter question. I'm not going to play Struggle Olympics with anyone who would ask that type of question. I think that it should be very clear to you that Black women are significantly marginalized. As it pertains to when they say Indian, I would presume they mean indigenous people. So there's a further issue that I have with the phrasing of that question. As it pertains to indigenous peoples, indigenous women, they certainly have their own very unique set of challenges that as a member that's not in the community, I couldn't answer that question the exact same way. I don't want Mark Zuckerberg sitting around talking about, yeah, I think it's mad easy for Black people. You feel me? Like, no, I don't want him doing that. So I'm not going to do that. If that person wants to hear about indigenous people's opportunities, I would encourage them to reach out to SAP for Good and get some indigenous people on here and have them speak about their opportunities.
That's fair. I respect that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Amber, and you could decide if you want to answer the first part or the other part, or redesign the question yourself. But how do you speak to race in terms of how it affects you as an on a woman entrepreneur and other Black women entrepreneurs. As we know, Black women receive 0.2% VC funding. I think very less than 10 Black women have raised $1 million in the VC sector. So how does race play into that?
Yeah, I think that is such an interesting question because I think there's so many different layers and nuances of it. You know, the aspect of Black women not receiving as much support is a possibility. Of course, yes, we don't receive as much support, but also there's this level of responsibility as a Black woman that I think gets ingrained in our heads as a, you know, a very young child, that you've got to be, you can't be the angry Black woman. So that means maybe you can't speak up for things if you can't do it in a way that's not an angry Black woman. You've got to be a homemaker. You've got to be the therapist for your friends. You can't just, you know, pop off on someone, or you can't really express yourself. And so I think when it comes to Black women entrepreneurs, all of those hardships that come with starting a business, all of the beginning hurdles, you know, the middle hurdles, the ending hurdles, all of those hurdles are not being addressed in an appropriate way because of the nuances of being a Black woman, because of that responsibility. So I think that it's kind of twofold. Yes, Black women don't get enough of that support. But then on the other hand, when they do get the support we need, in my opinion, is a lot more than what a white woman or an indigenous woman would need.
You know what else I would say? I would like to speak to, I wanted to speak to Amber's point because I wanted to highlight the idea of hypervisibility. Mm-hmm. I think that sometimes, you know, whenever we do something, I guess it's such an anomaly that it becomes like a really big deal, and people will think, well, you know, there are Black people who are successful, and there are Black people who are super rich, and there are Black people who are super healthy and happy, and no, COVID doesn't affect Black people more, because I've seen, you know, all on the news, on TV, they all dancing it down, protesting, having a good time. Those aren't sick people. You know, everything that we do is so, the hypervisibility. So it makes it seem like when we do speak out, we are complaining or being ridiculous or always seeking a handout, when the truth of the matter is that that's not the case at all. It's just media and the profitability behind our pain.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that's fair. And just before you go in, Nikki, I want to say, I'm not too sure they meant Indian in terms of the wrong term for indigenous Native Americans. They could have meant Indian from India. So I just want to put that out there as well. I think they were talking about other women of color, but I think a lot of the statements you say do apply to that. And Nikki, what did you want to add to that last question?
I was going to say that goes back to when we were talking about challenges, like just that question is, you know, well, what about? So here we are, Black women entrepreneurs talking about what it is to be a Black woman entrepreneur. And it's like, well, what about white people? Or what about white women? Why are you not here for all white women? Why are you not here for all, you know, Black people? Is just like we're speaking on our experiences and what we have experienced, what we're dealing with in our journeys, our things. And when you ask about what about other people, you're kind of erasing what we have to say or how we experience the thing, saying that that's not good enough. Like, how dare you speak on your experience, because what about these other people? And that's just a challenge that as a Black entrepreneur, we're always faced with, because if we're doing something for Black women, for Black businesses, for Black ownerships, for Black dollars, for Black communities, the whatabouts come in and erases all the work that we're trying to do for our community as a way that we're not even supposed to strive for excellence in ourselves.
That's totally fair. So I want to thank you ladies so much for joining us today on the SAP Purpose Live Network. It's been such a beautiful conversation. I believe that we've opened individuals who might have had closed minds into really understanding the experiences that all of us have to go through on different levels. And just finally, in closing, can you guys all quickly provide what is your advice to budding entrepreneurs, individuals who are going through what you experienced in the beginning stages or where you are right now and thinking, you know what, this is really not my cup of tea. This hill is kind of hard to climb. I'm not too sure if I want to continue. What words would you give to them in your closing contribution? And since we finished with you, Nikki, do you want to start? We can go Nikki, Shanae, and Amber. Thank you, ladies.
Okay, so, and then I saw a question said, well, how do we think we can make people our allies? And this is always like a fun question, especially for me, because I love talking to people who are like, oh, I want to be an ally. And it's like, okay, so why do you think you're not an ally? It's always going to be my first question. Why? What are you not doing that you feel like you need to do more of? And then ask yourself, why are you not doing that? So if you're asking yourself how you can be a better ally, ask yourself, what is it that you're not doing that you feel like you should be doing? I teach yoga, so this is a great example, especially talk about the health and wellness space. I teach yoga. A lot of times when I go to the yoga studio, or some of the kids I teach, they're not Black children, right? So I'm oftentimes the only Black woman in these spaces. And during a yoga training, I was in there, I was the only Black woman. There's about 15 others in there, and they were like, well, how can we be better allies to you? And I'm like, well, do you have any Black friends? Do you know anybody Black besides me? And if you don't, why is it that way, right? So if you're asking yourself, how can I be there, change your environment, change your space, and just do it like that. So to be a better ally, to be a better person, ask yourself, why do you feel like you're not already? And what is it that you want to see? Like, we always hear the things, it's such a cute phrase, be the change you want to see. Are you actually taking those steps to do those things? The only way you can be a better person if you write down what will make you a better person and then act on those things that you believe will make you a better person.
That's amazing. I love that so much. Thank you so much. And Shanae?
So you said I'm supposed to give my advice to entrepreneurs, right?
Well, whatever words you'd want to go. Maybe it's an advice, maybe it's a warning. I don't know. Okay. What would you like to let them know? What is ahead, the road ahead?
Oh, sure. So I've got 3 tips. The first one is save money, of course, because especially if you were like me, I worked a day job and then I did Ivy's Tea Company after work. So if you want to go full time with your business at some point, you should save money. And also in COVID, I mean, I can imagine that it's very difficult to raise money sometimes, especially right now with a lot of funds kind of drying up. And eventually these investors, if you want them, they're going to be like, well, how did you do during COVID? And you want to be able to say that you made a profit and you saved some cash and that you're the big dog. So make sure that you save money. The second piece of advice I can give you is that it's hard work and that's okay. It's supposed to be hard. Just keep on going. And my third and final point is everybody on Instagram is lying. Everybody. Nobody's having that much fun. Nobody's that happy. Nobody's making that much money. They're all lying. So don't even fall into that. Just keep your head down.
I'm very happy on Instagram.
So she some people say lie.
She posts like once a week. I mean, come on. Once a week of happiness is easy to do. I'm talking about the people happy 7 days a week. No, but honestly, like, don't get caught up into that because that's just an aesthetic, and if you're in your business and it's hard for you and you like go on Instagram and you see people like flossing and like I made $200,000 this month selling this online course, like you'll start to feel like crap. You'll feel like you're not doing a good job and you can't trust that stuff. I mean, they probably didn't even make that course. They probably bought it off some third-party site that was stolen, so don't fall into that stuff. Just keep your head down and do your work. That's the best advice that I can give anybody.
And that's on that. Thank you so much, Shanae. That was amazing. And Amber, would you like to close us out on the advice or I guess forecast you can give to other entrepreneurs who are Black women?
Yeah, absolutely. I would just like to echo Shanae's words of working hard, keeping your head down. And, as a young child, my parents taught me, as a Black woman, you might have to work twice as hard to get half as far. And I think that I've actually changed my mindset about that a little bit in becoming an entrepreneur. I think you're always going to work twice as hard if you're fighting an uphill battle. And so if you choose the path that has the resources that you need, the pit stops that you need, anything that you need along the way that you can just kind of grab off of a tree or you can grab off of a small bush, I think that is the path that's going to get you twice as hard for working twice as far for working twice as hard. So definitely choose the path that has the resources that you need in your own business and your own aspect of your life, but really just work hard and make sure not to give up. Listen to the voice in your head that says you can do it. And I know that sounds really corny, but just write it down, figure out something that works for you, and then do that. Stick with that, and you'll definitely see rewards from it.
Amazing. Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you, SAP Purpose Next Gen. Purpose Live Network for having us and having this really important conversation. And like Shanae said, it's about sharing your platform and having that visibility of Black women at different stages in their businesses need to add to this conversation. We look forward to seeing more support from the SAP platform. And finally, I just want to say that for me, in terms of the advice to give to all entrepreneurs, particularly Black women, is really decide how you want to succeed. I think we don't discuss this a lot, is that success looks different for everyone. And you really have to, when we incorporate the mental health aspect, we really have to decide how fast we want to grow, or do we want, and when, and at what pace, because sustainability and longevity is key. And like they said, it's a marathon, it's not a race. So thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks everyone for such an insightful and honest conversation. Thank you for sharing your stories, but also just in a very practical way, highlighting how support can be had to promote Black women entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for that. With that, please do join us again next week. We will have another conversation around this. And then please join us a little bit later today where we have a session around women in data science and how research can lead to economic prosperity. So thank you, everyone. Please stay safe and healthy and see you soon again on SAP Purpose Network Live. Thanks. Bye.